So I thought today I would share about something that happened, oh my goodness, maybe 30 years ago. But it was a miracle, like a real miracle. And sometimes because I believe that miracles still happen because I've experienced them. Okay. I can't even just say I believe it. I know it because I've experienced them. And sometimes they're pretty off the charts. And this one was pretty off the chart. And I don't even know what got me thinking about it the other day. But I thought, you know what? I want to share this. I want people to know just how powerful God is and that miracles do still happen. I believe, first off, that the Bible says in Psalm 139, it says that he wrote down for us in his book all the days of our life before they ever existed, all the days he had ordained for our life before even one of them existed. So it's like, I say it's like we all come with an expiration date. I don't know where it is and I can't see it, but I got one. We've all got one. And I think sometimes things happen that could be trying to speed up that expiration date. But, if it's not your time, God will find a way. He will keep you here, even if he has to create an impossible miracle. So this was, I was heading home. I don't remember why I had gone to town. I must have been at a meeting, or maybe that's when I was working. I don't know, but there was a Bible study happening at my house that night, and I was trying to get home to the Bible study because my husband and my kids were there and stuff, and they would have already started everything. I was going to be late. And so I might have been maybe even driving a little faster than what I should have. And so I was coming down this main road and there was nobody on it. It was one of those nights where there was black ice and I should have been being more careful, I'm sure. And the little town we lived in, there was just one way in, one way out. That was pretty much it. Well, unless you wanted to go up over the hills, out in the boondocks before you ever hit civilized. But there was only one civilized way in, one civilized way out. And so I was coming up to the intersection and I had a red light. And so I went, and at this intersection, I would be making the turn to go onto the road that went to the town that I lived in, and which was just actually a little community. I was in the big town is where I was coming out of. Like, you probably don't even care, do you? Oh, maybe I give too many details. I don't know. Oh, well, I am who I am. So I was coming to the intersection where I would be making the turn, but I had a red light. So I went to put my brake on, and I hit some ice. Well, there was one other car. So I'm coming straight, and there's one other car coming the other way where I was going to turn. And they had gotten a green light. And so they were not stopped. They were driving down the road. The light turned green. So they kept going. And he was at a pretty good clip, too, for the conditions. So we both ended up going into the intersection at the same time. We didn't both belong in that intersection at the same time, but that's what happened. So our cars were heading for each other. Okay, he's coming from the side, I'm coming up, and we were going to, I just braced myself for it because we were going to hit hard. And we were already out of control. We were going to spin out of control more. And there was, to the side of me where I was going to be pushed, was a bridge that I would probably go off of and into the cold, icy river. I really believe that if God hadn't done what he did that night, one or both of us would have died. But what happened, and this is so hard to explain, but our cars became more of a vapor. They weren't solid anymore. And we passed through each other instead of making impact. And I mean, as I'm going through his car, I'm looking and I can see him. And it's like we went into slow motion and I can see this guy in his driver's seat looking at me like, what? I could see the things sitting on the back seat of his car. He could see the things in my car. Our cars passed through each other and then came to a stop, and we're both solid again. But it's like we weren't solid, the cars weren't solid. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like we became these two mists or vapors that passed through each other, but you could see all the details. And we stopped and we both got out of our cars and stood there and looked at each other and was like, did that just happen? And it was like we couldn't even speak. We didn't know what to do. And we just stood there and stared at each other for a while. And then he got back in his car and gently went up over that bridge going, wherever he was going. I pulled myself together, got back in my car, and very slowly made my turn and continued down the road to where I was going. Now, when I got to the Bible study, they were already doing worship and stuff, and it was a real informal home group that we had, and so we got done with worship, and I said, before we do whatever we're going to do, I need to tell you guys something. And I tried to share with them as best I could what had just happened. And it was one of those things where it was like, are you sure? Are you sure that's what happened? It was so hard for people to believe. But, like I said, that was like 30 years ago. And I can still see the box of Kleenex on that guy's back seat. I can still see his dark hair and his brown eyes and, his face. It really happened. I can't explain it. And sometimes I think that when somebody tries to share something, because I've had people share things like that with me, and to where I'm kind of like, it's almost like, because you can't explain it, it's hard to receive it, or to even admit that might have really happened. And are you sure that, you didn't imagine? Okay, I can't imagine going through somebody's car and their car going through mine, that there was no impact. And that our cars then were able to come to stops and we were able to go on. But it really happened because it wasn't his time and it wasn't my time. I believe that strongly. And God did what God had to do to save us. Now, there were a few people in the group that were of the Pentecostal persuasion and were like, woo, yeah, praise God. They had no problem receiving it, but there were a few others that were a little more conservative in their beliefs and are you really sure that happened? Oh yeah, but it's like I had to tell somebody. So I just wanted to share that with you because I had to tell somebody, because I want you to know I'm not crazy. I may act crazy sometimes, but I'm not crazy. What was that thing on that TV show where he goes, I know I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested. That used to always make me laugh. Anyway, my mom didn't have me tested, but I know I'm not crazy. God will do the impossible. He does it every single day. We're just not always aware of it, but sometimes something big happens. And even if people don't believe, if you have a big miracle happening in your life and other people don't want to believe it or receive it, that's okay. That's okay. Because God will go to whatever length he needs to go, that he needs to go to, in order to make sure where we need to be and that we're okay when we need to be okay. So I had talked about the storms in life. Well, you know what? Sometimes those storms end with a great big miracle. Yep, he still does them. He's still a wonder-working God, a miracle-working God. And, that's not the only miracle I've had in my life that's extraordinary like that. There have been others, and they still happen today. In fact, my husband and I had a huge one happen to us one day. So that's a story for another time. It's one we haven't really shared a lot yet. We've been kind of sitting on it, but I'll have to see if I can bring him in on some of these. Like, I want to share how we met, because that was a total God thing. We'll tell you, God introduced us to each other, and God arranged our marriage. And I'm so grateful to the Lord for what he did for Marvin and I both in that. And even with other people not thinking that was a good idea or whatever, there's some differences between my husband and I that some people weren't in favor of. It has nothing to do with who we are as people. But, and you'll know when you see him. But maybe I can get him to, he's kind of a quiet, private guy, but maybe I can get him to come do this with me sometime, and we can share some stuff, because, well, I want you to meet him anyway. He's a pretty amazing guy. But anyway, just wanted to share that miracle with you today, and just remind you that he still does miracles. In fact, I believe we're going to start seeing big, extraordinary miracles a little more often here in the very near future. I really do. So, is God working in your life? Do you know him? I hope so. Because I'll tell you, no regrets. No regrets when it comes to Jesus. All right. If you haven't subscribed, I would love if you would. If this video touched you in any way, please hit the like button so I know. Feel free to leave a comment. I read all the comments. And hit the notification bell so you'll know when the next video comes up tomorrow. I almost hate saying this every time because I get bored with it, but this might, you got to almost say it every time because some people just don't know, right? So for those of you who don't know, hit subscribe, the notification bell. I love you. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later.